p.m. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. Director Gould.
Present.
Director Orzali, did you join us? I think he's our call-in listener, but I don't know for sure. So I will skip him for now and move to Director Wood.
Aye. Aye.
Director Sheets.
Present.
Kelly.
Present.
Jones.
Here.
White.
Here.
Clark.
Present.
All right, Director Orzali, one more time. Hearing no Director Orzali, I will mark you absent for now. We can always get you added in later. Turning it back over to you, President Sailors.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will do the pledge to the flag. Director White, will you lead us in that, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for Cablecast on Metro Cable 14, replayed on Monday, January 31st at 6 p.m. and Wednesday, February 2nd at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. Webcast at metro14live.saccounty.net. We now have the public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
I did have Vice President Cole indicate that he would like to speak again. And so while we're getting ready for him, I'll remind everyone that there is a 3-minute time and limit. I know we have many attendees again this meeting. So Art, we can work on unmuting people, maybe in groups again. But Vice President Cole, did you still want to start off this evening?
Yes, please. I'd like to take a quick 3 minutes if possible.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Vice President Cole. Go ahead.
Okay, President Sailors, members of the board, I'd like to take the next 3 minutes just to tell you a story. It's not my story. It's James's story. And James is a 7-year veteran of the fire service. James is a husband and father of 2. James is working in Marin, a member of Local 1775. And James always wanted his family to be a closer part of his fire service family. But James worked in Marin and lived in the greater Sacramento area. So when James saw an opening for lateral firefighters, James was very excited to come join Metro Fire. He took a leap of faith and he took a 20% pay cut to come here. James's experience with everybody through the hiring process, HR, the academy staff was fantastic. And he greatly appreciated his crew in the firehouse with his first assignment. But once James got online, he found that things were quite different than what he initially expected. James, like I said, he took a leap of faith because he wanted his family to be able to be part of the fire service family that he valued so high, but he also wanted to be able to spend more time with his family. That was very important to him with 2 little ones. And so what James found, though, was once he was online, he was spending significantly less time with his family, not because he was picking up extra shifts. He was still on his 10 shift, but because when James went home, he was so fatigued that he was sleeping a lot. And he also found that he was not the guy that he wanted to be. So he was snappy with his kids and even having challenged interactions with his wife. So they talked a lot about the new challenge. And then James was standing on the wall at his last shift with Metro Fire, looking at other members of his fire service family and saw 2- and 3-year men and women who were just really fatigued and really frustrated and complaining about not getting training and the amount of calls they were running. And James decided that he didn't want that to be his story. When we separate from the fire service, we're all a story of some sort, and we get to sometimes decide how that was written. And James decided he wanted his story to be different. So James is going back. James has left Metro Fire. And James is our target. James was one of the 6 ALS providers that we got when we got laterals. So now we're down to 5 out of 19. James's last shift, I think, was a hard one for him. It was hard for him to go back. He's not very excited about it, but he could not see himself having the type of career that he wanted to have here. Every division right now in Metro Fire is getting crushed. And I know you know that, right? But what I want to leave you with before you go into closed session, because I don't have an opportunity to address all of you there, or before you do, is that we need great people like James to want to be here. But before we can even do that, we need the great people that already are here to want to come to work. And that's going to take us locking arms and working together. And that first step does start tonight. And I just thank you for your consideration in that. I task you to think about James and all the other Jameses out there that we want to bring in, not just to the line, but across the board, and how that's going to make us stronger and help us help the community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Vice President Cole. Okay, moving on to consent items.
Madam Chair, if we could give Art a chance to unmute the other attendees.
Yes, thank you very much for reminding me of that. Go ahead with that.
Hey, Melissa, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. Sorry, just, I was kind of juggling. I'm on the phone with Director Arzali. We're just trying out a few things. In fact, he may have connected.
I feel like we're in the
No,
middle.
that was somebody else who was having an echo. I just muted him. Okay, never mind then. Okay, so attendees, you have the ability to unmute yourselves at this time if you would like to present anything to the board. Looks like no response. We do have about 50 attendees. So, but looks like nobody has mentioned anything.
Great, thank you, Art.
All right, moving on to the consent items. Does any board members have any questions about the consent items?
Madam Chair, I do.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to request that we pull item number 2 from consent. This is a fairly significant process and one that I believe requires us to have some kind of full board conversation and clarification. It has been our history in the past when issues of this magnitude or have this impact come before this body that we first do it in presentation, and then we have an action item the following meeting. So I'd request that we pull item number 2 from consent and agendize it for our next regularly scheduled board meeting, please.
Point of information, a question, please. Does Director Gould, does that mean to discuss it tonight?
No, it means to pull it tonight so that we can have an opportunity 2 weeks from now to have it presented to this board as a presentation item where we can ask for clarifying questions like we've done in the past, and then have it agendized as an action item after we've had a presentation on it, so that we can get the full depth and breadth of the issue at hand and we can participate in this. I'll just give you one idea. I'm concerned about some of the language of exclusivity and how that aligns with the approved EMS authorities EMS plan at both the state and local level. And I just don't know that the board members have had enough time to ask questions about the details. When it's put in consent, that precludes us from having presentation and then an action item. And we've been in this predicament as described by this presentation or by this material. We've been in this predicament for a while. So it's not as if this is brand new. We probably ought to have an in-depth conversation about the elements of it.
Thank you, Director Gould. Does any other directors have anything to say?
Yeah, but to be clear, we wanna have a presentation, one meeting, and then the next meeting, we have a discussion with it, right? Is that clear?
Well, Delman, so in our history, when issues like this have come before us, commonly they are presented as a presentation item first,
right? Where
we can ask a variety of questions that then the staff go back, tweak on those as they see fit and as it makes sense to them. And then it comes back to us as an amended item for action. And I would hate to not take that opportunity, given the fact that this has impact that could be both short-term and long-term and involves some of our partners in the community as you read the agreement as it currently stands.
It's involved. Thank you. And I completely agree with you, Director Gould.
Thank you, directors. Does anyone else agree that this item should be removed from the consent?
I do, Madam Chair. I agree with Director Gould.
Madam Clerk, shall we remove this item from this consent?
Well, why don't, if I can chime in, why don't we take Director Gould's request as a motion to have it removed from consent and to be presented as a presentation item at the next meeting and an action item the following meeting, and a second by Director Clark, since he was the first person to chime in, and take a roll call vote on it.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, we will do that. So I have a motion from Director Gould, and I have a second from Director Clark to remove this item from consent and present it at our next meeting as a presentation item to be followed up with as an action item at the next meeting.
Understood. I will go ahead and call roll.
Thank you.
Director Gould.
Obviously, aye.
Orzali, have you joined? Director Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
And Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adopt consent with that change.
Second.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Orzali, have you joined us? Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Arthur, I'm in. Thank you, man.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Clark.
Aye.
Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And Director Orzali is with us now.
Yeah, I vote sure. Why not?
I will make note that Director Orzali has joined us. All of our motions so far have passed without any issue.
Thank you. Moving on to the action items. Action number 1, multiple awards schedule for legal services extension. Chief Harms.
Are we
going to do the
presentations?
presentations first?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's ahead of, yeah.
I'm sorry. I missed that. It was at the bottom of the page. Yes, let's go back.
No apologies
item.
necessary, Madam Chair.
Number 1 for presentation items, community risk assessment and community risk reduction plan. Deputy Fire Marshal Fields, and Fawcett's Consulting.
Good evening, directors, chief harms, and executive staff. Krishana Fields, Deputy Fire Marshal here of our Community Risk Reduction Division. I'm excited to be here with you guys this evening to present this important work to identify the types of emergencies that are happening within our district, where they're happening within our district, and who may be experiencing them, as well as how we can potentially reduce them or reduce their impact in our community. In May of 2020, we applied and were subsequently awarded the fiscal year 2019 Fire Prevention and Safety Grant to conduct this community risk assessment. In September of 2020, through the RFP process, we contracted with Fawcett's Consulting to begin this endeavor. Due to the impacts of COVID, AFG grants were extended, and we shifted some of our initial plans to ensure safety while still gathering needed data and community input. This community risk assessment identifies key risks and mitigation measures for our district as a whole, as well as each of the individual communities that we serve. We will utilize this assessment and the identified mitigation measures to develop targeted education and enforcement programs, to strategically allocate our resources, and to apply for future grant funding to enhance and expand our efforts. This evening, I'm excited to bring to you the culmination of the hard work completed over the last year and a half to put our district in an improved position to enhance the safety of the communities that we serve, utilizing a data-driven picture of the risks that we face. With that, I will turn it over to Adam Teal with Fawcett's Consulting to present the assessment.
Good evening, and thank you, Deputy Fire Marshal Fields, for that great introduction. I'm Adam Teal. I am joined by my co-founder of Fawcett's, Kevin Roach, who may or may not be coming on camera here shortly. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen while we do a quick walkthrough. This is a 471-page report. I promise we're not going to take you through every page. We're just going to kind of hit the highlights here in the next 20 minutes or so, and we'll have time for the board members and others to ask questions, Madam President, subject to your direction. So let me go ahead and share the screen here. And if somebody can let me know if you are seeing the presentation. Anybody a thumbs up? Great, thank you all. Okay, so it really is, it's our honor as Fawcett's to be part of this effort that what we believe is really a first in the nation effort of its kind to use the new NFPA 1300 standard to conduct a comprehensive community risk assessment and risk reduction planning process. This was our team. We have a team, literally a worldwide, a global team. Dr. Kwame Cooper, a retired assistant fire chief from LA City, and also a member of the NFPA 1300 technical committee. So truly, one of the folks who actually wrote the book on this. Javon Davis, who's currently a law student in Boston. Elise Fisher is our GIS analyst. She actually worked on this project from Portugal. Dr. Charles Jennings is a very well-known researcher in fire and emergency services. Natasha Now, out in Connecticut, formerly of the Philadelphia Fire Department. Jessica Pickett, formerly from the Fairfax County Fire Department. Kevin Roach, again, my partner who I introduced, retired from the Phoenix Fire Department. And I have been doing this type of work for 30 years in 5 different states around the country, both as an operational first responder and fire chief. And also Kevin and I have been doing consulting together for around 25 years. So the approach to this project, you can see there, that's Chief Harms at one of our workshops that I'll talk about later on. Really a novel approach, as we've done consulting work in fire departments around the nation, for years, we've included a community risk assessment component. The scope of this project, however, and following that new standard, the NFPA 1300 standard, is much more comprehensive and included multiple facets. You see what I did there? Multiple facets in the data acquisition, the data analysis. You can see there the data acquisition phase. As you go through the report, you'll see that we farmed data from a wide range of sources, from the Census Bureau, Metro Fire's own databases, their computer-aided dispatch, records management system, arson database, County of Sacramento data, California OES data, CDF data. We're fortunate in that the open data portals for the county and for the state were very robust. So we had a lot of data we were able to capture there. And we also, and one of the really neat things about this approach, and again, we can't take credit for that. Metro Fire staff developed the scope, got the grant. And part of the data acquisition for us was actually creating data from within the community. We have seen community risk analyses that are done using really just quite literally flyover data from the 30,000 foot level without actually getting down into the community and then the neighborhood level. This project included a community survey that we distributed around the entire district, had almost 1,300 respondents. Now that's a relatively small set of the total population of the district. However, we had responses from every zip code in the district, including we had respondents from the Placer County portion of Metro Fire's area of responsibility as well. So in addition to farming these data sets from all of these other sources, these sort of higher level data sets, we created these data at the individual household level. We also had 63 businesses respond to that survey. Again, just a sample, but a representative sample, we believe. And we took all of those data together, analyzed those. We also did an internal survey of Metro Fire staff that we'll talk about, because those are the folks who are really out there doing the work, engaging with the community, analyze those data, and really kind of look for relationships. It's very difficult in a study like this to actually assign causality. Few fire departments, in fact, few organizations have data that are valid and reliable enough to really conduct sort of academic quality research. So really what we were looking for are relationships and tendencies. And you'll see that taking those data, very important, a great way to sort of look at the data. Everybody, you can certainly look at charts and tables. For us, and we really used a lot of GIS analysis mapping, geographical information system mapping, and you'll see hundreds of maps in the report. And we had hundreds of other maps that we produced as part of the GIS analysis where we really didn't see any types of relationships at all. And so really through this entire process, as we work with our very experienced team, with your very dedicated Metro Fire staff, there's sort of an ongoing process of validating the, if you will, 30,000 foot data with the kind of 10,000 to 1,000 foot data. And we combine that with a lot of field research. We spent hundreds of staff hours on the ground in Sacramento County. At this point, I can drive from Rancho Murrieta over through Florin, up to Alberta, and then get over to Orangevale without a map. I don't need Google Maps. So we really were able to go out there. We took thousands of photographs and really got to know the area, got to know the ground over several trips, and bringing these folks from all around the country in different lenses as we apply this to help truly field validate the data that we saw from these different sources, from the big data sets and also from the community and internal survey. Workshop, a very critical component of this. We brought in Metro Fire staff from operations, from different staff units. We also brought in stakeholders from various community groups and had them actually in the workshop to look at a draft product, to look at some of the maps, and most importantly, to sort of co-create and develop mitigation strategies that come from within Metro Fire, within the communities themselves. And we really think, this is a relatively small group, but we really think this could be a prototype for more work going forward. And it was a really rich experience for us. You'll see a photo from the end of the workshop. This is Chief Harms kicking it off at the beginning. You'll see a photo from the end of the workshop that sort of proves the point. And of course, the documentation ultimately is that 471-page report that I mentioned. Key findings, we recognize that the district boundaries on this have to be revised. So you'll see in the final draft, we'll have revised district boundaries. You can see though, overall, looking at fire incidents and medical incidents, you can see that generally speaking, all other things set equal, the incident response workload, the demand for services from Metro Fire, both fire and EMS, tends to track with population overall and population density. That's fairly normal for most communities that we've seen around the country. And we did, in consultation with Metro Fire staff, we did focus in on these 19 discrete communities. It certainly is our sense from spending a lot of time in the district that the mitigation strategies and a lot of the findings are applicable to those interstitial spaces as well as these sort of discrete communities. Now, again, a lot of maps, a lot of analysis in the report. A lot of those are sort of different factors, socioeconomic factors that tend to influence from the research. And again, we're fortunate folks like Dr. Jennings have actually created some of the foundational research to look at the types of factors, look at the variables that influence vulnerability to fire, fire experience, as well as the demand for emergency medical services. And a lot of those, when you really sort of roll it all up, you end up that vulnerability to injury, illness, and fires tends to track with vulnerability to other types of social issues. And you really see that here, this underlying data set. This is state data, California state data, accessed through the county open data portal. And you can see there, those dots represent incidents per square mile, fire incidents in one display, medical incidents in the other. And you can see visually there that those incidents tend to track with other types of vulnerabilities, income, minority status. This is something that's fairly common. Now, it's important to mention that we're talking about vulnerability here. We're not talking about causality or causation. And it's also important to recognize that it's hard to generalize anything to other communities, in the United States as a whole. And when we're talking about risk and vulnerability in the report, and in this sense, we're talking about it relative to the district. So if we say one community has higher risk than another community, we're talking about within the district. Now, the one difference there is we use some data from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and their National Risk Index for Natural Hazards. And they have done some macro level analysis across the US on some of the big disaster type risk, earthquakes, landslides, drought. You'll find that in the report as well. FEMA did a similar process to ours, of course, crunching a lot of big data and looking at their vulnerability is calibrated to all of the other communities across the United States where they pulled data for that National Risk Index for Natural Hazards. So in a relative sense here, we're talking about risk with our analyses within the district. Those FEMA data are comparing relative risk across all of the other communities where they did that assessment. Talking about causality now, because we know folks are interested in that. You can see here, these are Metro Fire from the Metro Fire Arson Unit and the arson database. You can see some actual photographs there of your firefighters and medics doing work out there in the street, in the field. And you can see the cause there that I do want to mention. You can read those yourselves, but I do want to mention that green block, cause undetermined after investigation. That's not uncommon. The NFPA 921 standard, which is the standard for a fire and arson investigation, sets a very high bar for arson investigators to be able to say a cause is X, Y, or Z. So it is not uncommon in fire departments across the nation to, even after an extensive investigation, to be able not to determine a cause. And you also see there causes under investigation. Fire cause and origin investigation is really laborious, very difficult. And despite what folks sometimes see on TV, you can't wrap up a fire cause and origin investigation in 48 minutes with the commercials. So you see here, you have, this is just a quick display of the cause, a lot more data in the report. Madam President, did you have a question?
Yes, sir, I do. In this actual report right here, why are there no number of arrests listed?
So we were really looking at, risk and vulnerability. It wasn't really part of our scope to look at the prosecution piece of that.
Interesting. because I find that that is kind of an important thing. I used to be an arson investigator. That was one of the target in our unit. Anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, then you certainly are preaching to the choir when you know how difficult it is to actually determine a cause and origin. And then it's another matter entirely to be able to take that through a court and, you know, prosecute and actually get a conviction. So
yes, and bring it to adjudication. I totally get it. But that was
absolutely.
Yes.
So I mentioned the community survey, and you can see here, these are the community survey respondents' impressions, their perceptions of hazards in the district. First in their communities and then, you know, in the district. You can see the top 5 hazards there. Again, I'm not going to read them off to you. Drought and water shortage, extreme heat, grass fire, illegal fireworks. A pandemic is in there. Normally, I'm not sure, you know, under normal circumstances, if we weren't living in a pandemic, I don't know how many folks would pick that. So the timing does matter sometimes, but you can see there, these are your constituents' perceptions of the hazards in the community. Smoke alarms, these are really positive findings. A lot of working smoke alarms, almost all of the households, around 97%, reported that they do have working smoke alarms. The next piece, of course, having a smoke alarm is one thing. Knowing what to do when that smoke alarm goes off is another thing. And less of the respondents reported having home escape plans. We did have a function in the survey instrument. This survey was sent out. We had cards that were placed around the community. We did a mailing, sent out in English and Spanish with a QR code. Anybody with a mobile device with, you know, cell service could fill out this, could respond to this questionnaire, also on the internet. And you can see there is an opportunity for more folks to have home escape plans. And as part of the functionality, we actually have a list of folks who agreed to have Metro Fire reach out and offer that type of assistance. So that really is something already that is actionable, that your staff is going to be able to work on to reach out to those households. And this also, of course, this survey gave a great opportunity to engage with residents and businesses proactively and sort of raise awareness about these issues. We also had an open comment field in the questionnaire. There were a lot more comments than this. These are the comments that had the most mentions. And you can see there what's on people's minds, and at least on what's on the respondents' minds, the folks who responded to this questionnaire. Now, we've been talking about risk and vulnerability at the district level. And one of the really, you know, another hallmark of this report is drilling down and getting down to the community level. This is just every one of those 19 communities that were identified has a profile like what I'm going to quickly show you here. This is for North Highlands. You can see a lot of different variables that, you know, we've seen that we looked at from the research and over our years of doing this in a lot of different communities that might influence vulnerability. That doesn't mean that they do, but they might influence vulnerability. As you page through each one of these, looking at specific risk factors at the community level. And these are, you know, these are not just the out-of-town consultants' impressions. We've gone through multiple iterations of this with your staff, validating these in the workshop, and really getting into the community mitigation measures, the sort of top line community mitigation measures, or the opportunities to make a difference, not just around fires. We've been talking a lot about fires. Another great thing about this community risk assessment is it really was all hazards, and looking at fall injuries, cardiac emergencies. So looking at fire risk, looking at emergency medical services type risk, and looking at that sort of macro disaster type risk that I mentioned before. We also did as I talked about the relative rankings here, these are, you know, relative to other communities in Metro Fire's district. We kind of broke down these risk rankings, again, in consultation with your staff, a little description of the community, and then a lot of different, you know, we can't entirely get away from the tables because we're talking about data. So a lot of different tables here with other types of factors, other community stakeholders and community service organizations, potential partnerships, and of course, images from Metro Fire social media sites, from our own field documentation of different sort of representative incidents in the community, different structures, infrastructure in the communities, and potential partnerships. So there's a set of pages like this for each of those 19 communities. And that sort of tees up the opportunities. This is the end of the workshop. You can see at the beginning of the workshop, there were those dry erase boards in the back were completely blank. This team, great folks working together, covered those boards with ideas and opportunities for mitigating risk in all of the communities throughout the district. Yeah, top line there, multilingual, multicultural, multidisciplinary, meaning looking at both fire risk as well as medical and traumatic injury risk, community risk reduction related programming and outreach across the district. The multilingual piece is very important here. We noticed it was very, very obvious from the data. The many languages are spoken throughout the district. Looking at the different faith communities and the different cultures, it's really vital that these programs are aligned and that outreach is conducted through community partnerships, which is another thing we talk about there, leveraging those community partnerships. And that includes, we had operational responders in this workshop as well, and they identified, you really facilitated this, those operational responders identified opportunities for them to participate in prevention education, outreach, sidewalk CPR, installing smoke alarms, so many different things, homeless liaison. I mean, we even had some great ideas about sort of outreach to pets and the unhoused communities as a way of developing trust and being able to create a channel and an opportunity for communication and getting those messages out. This other bullet, enhanced data collection and analysis, training and tools. I think this has been in every report about every fire department and every other organization that we've ever written. There are always opportunities to strengthen data collection and analytical tools. It's really important to kind of close that loop with the folks who are collecting the data, make sure they have training and get those data. Quality data in means quality information out. And also these data that are collected go up to the National Fire Incident Reporting System and actually can influence fire policy around the nation. And I know Metro Fire staff is already working on some potential enhancements to that data collection and analytics. And of course, ongoing implementation and resourcing, so many opportunities here. We have seen firsthand how dedicated Metro Fire staff is. And the more resources put out, a wise person once said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Certainly in our business, that's true as well. You can see here some community survey perceptions of risk reduction methods. They align very well with a lot of the initiatives that Metro Fire either is already doing or has planned to move forward with. So these are from those community survey respondents and really what they think is effective around risk reduction. Similarly, from the respondents, what are the best methods, the most effective methods to reach them? What better way to find out how to reach folks than to ask the folks you're trying to reach? And that's really what you see here. And I promised I'd keep you around 20 minutes. I did want to acknowledge, we had a great facets team, but we could not have done this alone. This is truly, it's your product. We really do appreciate all of you meeting with us early in the project with us and members of our team. That really helped us develop our work plan and start to understand the community. And of course, our core team there who really helped us to make this happen. And with that, Madam President, we'll open it up to questions.
Thank you very much for that very in-depth presentation. Other board members, does anyone have any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. This is Director Jones. And yes, thank you. This is extremely impressive. And I look forward hopefully soon to perhaps sitting down with a hard copy and looking through some of these areas into the 1,000-foot level. Boy, what a wealth of information. I do have one question. How many respondents participated in this study?
I think it was, the community survey respondents, I think that number was 1,273. And those folks came from every zip code in the district, including the Placer County portion. And 63 of those respondents were businesses.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else have
If
any?
I could offer, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
this was included in the board packet, and at 417 pages, I'd hate to see a copy distributed to all of the board of directors. I looked through it in the board packet, and I won't be needing a copy. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kelly.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Director Gould.
First off, thank you very much, Adam, for this report, and Chief, for your leadership on data-driven analytics, and then decisions being made based on that data. It's impressive to see us move in that direction. Although we have giant analytics across our department, I'm really proud that the chief and his team are making decisions based on these analytics. I guess my question after that comment is, so now that we've got this relatively large database, what are we doing to inform or trim down the 470 pages or whatever, however massive it is? What are we doing to trim down that and put together an executive summary for the electeds in our communities, like the city of Citrus Heights, the city of Rancho Cordova, and the city councils and mayors? Is there a way to take that and summarize the data specific to their areas so that they can work with that and utilize what we've done to help with the prevention avenues or techniques that they're trying to implement in their own community?
Director Gould, I'll take that as part of my back end of it. And you know that we have our 2x2s with just a number of people across the cities and then with the county.
Right.
And we go in and we'll show them data that we have. And we have a lot of conversations about what we feel are the risks, what's happening in their area, what is the data for those areas. And a lot of times it has been kind of what we feel is that way. A perfect example here is taking the zip codes that are within Citrus Heights, which you do the 2x2, and pulling those portions of it out and saying, here's the overview of the district, but here is what's going on right here and what is happening and how it is different if you go from the north to the south or out to Rio Rancho Marietta. So I think it's that portion of it is one of the things that I look at as we move forward, being able to share those things. And then as we look at partnershiping together and saying, what is a risk that's happening in Citrus Heights? Here is what we've identified. And it's not our feeling, but truly is. It's written down that says, through our research, these are the hazards that are going on or that are happening, and what we can do as far as strategies to really affect change. And then come back and say, in 5 years, have we made a difference in those things?
Perfect.
The other thing, which I think is one of those opportunities, is being able to, and Aaron has done just a phenomenal job of going out and looking for grants and grant opportunities. And a lot of the data is based off of response or what we feel. Now what we're able to say as a assessment of the district, and Adam had said it, there's not a lot of these that are out there, but it's just another tool to be able to say, in this area, we have these risks across the district. They're very high here. We want to put a program in for an inspection side of something because of the risk, a EMS side because we know there's more fall injuries that happen, or there's a fire hazard that has happened in this area. And because of the population and the density of the area, that is what's driving it. So it's such a great tool that's a snapshot for us to be able to break down to where needed.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that response. And that's exactly what I was hoping to hear, is that this really can drive many layers of decisions that will occur within our district jurisdictions. And of course, some of the areas that we represent, because I think when you drill down, and I love the word partnership. I mean, I look forward to having a partnership with the city of Citrus Heights in using federal dollars or state dollars to drive away some of the risks that we have. So thank you very much. I think although pretty an impressive document, it's also impressive in the sense that it will be around for a while as we continue to use it. So I'm very proud. Very good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Gould. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns?
I'd like to make one observation. I want to parrot what Director Gould said in the sense that often when reports like this are generated and they are laborious to do, they get put on a shelf and the value is lost. And I'm confident that with Metro Fire, this just won't be the case. This will become a foundational piece for us. When in my previous career, we had an in-depth industrial study of threat reduction and risk analysis. It was interesting to me that from that came proximity of freeway overpasses was one of the school's concerns because of they tended to be involved in accidents involving fuel trucks, chlorine trucks, that sort of thing. And that was useful for us to know. This report is much further in depth. I think is going to be foundational for us. So thank you very much for the effort.
Does anyone else have any questions or concerns? So I have
President, I have.
Oh,
go ahead.
My question is, so we have this information now. How often do we need to upgrade this? And how is this a maintenance thing that we will need to be continuing to upgrade? What are your thoughts about that, Chief?
Adam, is there a recommendation on when this is updated? I'm sure there is. Do you have something that's in the standard?
Well, it really, pieces of it are supposed to be updated annually, and then the standards are on their own cycle. So that standard, this is the very first edition of that standard of the 1300 standard just came out, which is one reason why we haven't seen a lot of communities do this at this level of depth. So we also think this will become a template and really an example for a lot of other communities who will really kind of follow Metro Fire's lead. The work to keep it updated is really already underway, where our GIS analyst on our team, Elise, is meeting with the GIS folk who work for Metro Fire. So they can really, some of the analytics will actually be able to be semi-automated over time. So really they can be updated as new CAD data come in and time progresses. Those displays can be replicated, I won't say easily, because the GIS analysts, their role is very important, but much more easily than what we've had to do here. And then the survey, the survey really, that is something that you could do on a regular basis. It's also an opportunity to engage with the community. So it really is up to you, but I certainly, from what we've seen, and look, we've been doing this for a long time in a lot of places. We certainly have seen reports go on the shelf. We are also confident that's not going to happen with Metro Fire. And certainly we've seen a lot of communities that have truly been able to mitigate risk by investing in prevention and community risk reduction in parallel with the sort of operational assets that all of your constituents expect.
Director Sailors, sorry, Krishana here. Just also wanted to add that we are already in the process of moving this data into our Intera program. And so we're able to look at it on an ongoing basis and look at it again in the 5 years that's recommended from the standard. So we are already in the process of implementing, getting this information so that we can view it in real time on a continual basis.
Thank you, Krishana. That's exactly what I was wondering, if there was a software program that we are starting to implement this into, and who will be doing that maintenance, because software takes a lot of maintenance. Thank you very much. Anyone else have any questions or concerns about this presentation?
This is Director White. I had a question, probably more for Krishana. I didn't get a chance to review the whole report, and probably one of the most significant, what I would consider fire and life safety hazard issues in Division 9 is the large, the development of $1 million homes in that unwatered area just adjacent to Highway 16, But without that Willits access road, the county road completed, you're adding 4 miles, 5 minutes to travel time to access there for cardiac arrests or fires. And, I was wondering if this report highlighted or addressed that, because I think that's probably one of the big issues in Division 9 would be, working with the county on getting that connection to 16 so that the crews from 59 wouldn't have to drive past a house fire and watch it burn for 5 minutes before they can get to it.
Thank you, Director White. I will say a lot of that information and response time is seen in our standards of cover. And in that same Intera program, we're working at getting our standards of cover into that program, as well as all of our CRA information. So it will be a layer that we might be able to utilize in the future to look at that as a potential issue.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Chief Harms.
Adam, can you go back one slide? We started this project, and I'm not real sure that everybody in CRRD still likes me. It was on top of everything that we had going on, our mandatory inspections, the COVID portions of it, and being able to operate during that time. But you could take my name off of there, and the rest of the group that is in there has just done a phenomenal job of being able to pull together when we've asked them to do additional stuff. And it really goes to the dedication of everybody that is over at CRD and their ability to really take our community and impact our community and make it safer. And one of the things I think is just so important is the work that they do every single day. We really don't get to see it because it really prevented something bad from happening out there, and the interactions that they have. And I think each of you see different interactions from that side of the house where it may become a little bit negative because we're usually asking them to do something different, or we're asking them to spend some money. And when they're unhappy with that, they kind of come to you all. But they have done a phenomenal job. And on this project here, it really was above and beyond. So I want to thank everybody over there for really taking this project and pushing the district forward. And all I had to do was just ask, and they said, yes, let's do it. I'd also like to thank Adam and Kevin from Facets for being able to go through and really a project of a district or a department of our size, and the amount of data, and to be able to work with staff and not just come in and say, hey, we just went and drove around and looked and we think this is what your hazard is. Here's your thing, put it on the shelf and we'll see you. But being able to have things and work together and being flexible with our side of it for being able to do it. So I think for me as a fire chief, this is a great opportunity for us. We truly are one of only a few people that are out there that have really taken an FBA 1300 and now applied it, and then now taking it to the next steps moving forward. So thank you all for everybody that from CRRD and people that were involved in it for being involved and pushing our system forward. So that is all that I have.
Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you very much, Adam Thiel, for that presentation. If there's no more questions or comments, let's move on to item number 2 in the presentations, which is the 2021 Paramedic Program Update from EMS Captain Joe Schmidt.
Good evening, Director Sailors, directors, and Chief Harps. Can everyone hear me okay?
It's Chief Barbie Law.
Yes, sorry. Hi, it's Chief Law with the EMS division. And tonight I have with me Captain Paramedic Joe Schmidt. Joe is our newest member of the EMS team and has been serving as the liaison to our paramedic upgrade program, working with our students and American River College. So he's going to be helping me tonight provide you with an update on the program and our students' progress. Next slide, please. Thank you. So tonight our objectives is just to provide you with a really broad overview of the program. And I wanted to explain some of the EMS workforce planning and development challenges that we were trying to address with this program. I think it's really helpful for our constituents to hear a little bit about what it takes to become a paramedic in the state of California. It's not a simple process for our members and folks out there. So I'm sure many of the board members are already aware of what this takes, but for our constituents, I'd like to know what they were getting and the benefit of this program. We also have some feedback from our students, and they were very grateful to the board for supporting this program. And so we have some observations from them. And then finally, I'd like to identify some future program opportunities and a staff recommendation on this for the future. Next slide. So when we talk about our EMS workforce here, we've definitely been experiencing challenges, especially in the last decade and more recently as we've been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. This has put a tremendous amount of stress upon our healthcare system in general, our EMS workers, and those boots on the ground on the front line. And I'd like to thank Vice President Cole for the story that he shared with you at the beginning, because I think this helps explain the need for a program such as this, as we're going to go into here in the next minute. But essentially across the state of California, we have been seeing a decline in enrollment in EMT and paramedic programs. And because of that, we're seeing some decrease in the applicant pool. And up and down the state, everyone is in competition for the same smaller workforce. And that has created some challenges for us. I think the board is aware that we had been experiencing a decline in the number of qualified applicants to come in and serve in our SRP program, as well as on our first response units and staffing our ALS engines. Next slide, please. So the EMS division was tasked with identifying some solutions and perhaps some innovative ways, or looking at ways that we know were successful in the past to meet our expanding hiring need for paramedics, and knowing that there weren't the people out there coming in to meet that need. For example, last year, our preceptors here at Metro Fire provided internships for paramedic students just locally. And those 15 new paramedics are not going to meet our needs and ongoing needs for the future. So to improve and maintain the number of available paramedics for us here at Metro Fire, the district decided, and I appreciate the support of the board in allowing us to trial this again, but we sponsored some firefighter EMTs to attend paramedic school. And what that sponsorship included for our firefighters was their salary for school, as well as paid tuition for school. So we were able to take them from their 4896 work schedule currently online. And Captain Schmidt will discuss this further in the slides about how the program was structured. But so they were still working and being paid while they were going to school. And then it covered some of the ancillary expenses with the program. And those were really malpractice insurance for the students that they're required to have, and some additional certification classes that they need to take once they have completed their paramedic license in order to get their local accreditation. Next slide.
So the course structure came down to us, the EMS division completed a feasibility study and selected American River College, which Dr. Gould is very familiar with. And the students participated in a high-flex hybrid instructional model due to COVID. So they were in there for 12 months. They required the students to participate in 8 hours of online lecture, as well as 16 hours of clinical lab per week. Next slide. The paramedics training program overall consists of no less than 1,094 hours divided into 3 categories. Their didactic, their hospital clinical internship, and then their field internship. The didactic is all the book work and the tests that go involved with that, and it's 454 hours. Then they were being successful there. They moved on to the hospital clinical internship. So they utilized all the information and the tools that they learned in the didactic, and then they got to actually have hands-on application of that within the clinical internship. and that took them 160 hours. Once being successful there, then they moved on to the field internship that was 480 hours, or for us is 10 shifts, 10 48-hour shifts for us. And that then they used all the other skills, all the skills they learned in didactic and in the hospital clinical internship, and now they're the lead paramedic, and they're applying all that newfound knowledge to actual patients. Next slide. So the students were then placed on a 40-hour work week. In addition to their school schedule and study times, they also had 12 hours per week, so 12 shifts per month roughly, where they were the third member on that crew. This then helped reinforce everything that they learned during didactic especially. So they read it, they talked about it, and then now they actually got to see it in actual real life and ask questions to two other members on an ambulance crew. All of them felt that this was very paramount in their success within the program. Next slide. So the students then, after being successful with that, they went back to a 56-hour work week during their field internship time. The internship requires the students to be an additional crew member, so they can no longer count as staffing. They're going to be that third member on the ambulance, and they're actually going to be monitored by a preceptor the entire time and graded, so forth going forward. And this then gives them that real-time feedback. So after every call, they're getting actual feedback from preceptors and from other crews on their progress of during their internship. Next slide.
So the fiscal impact for the district, we had sought applicants and tried to identify students that already had completed the prerequisites to attend a college program. So there were some anatomy and physiology and basic pharmacology that they had to have already. And so we identified 3 of our firefighter EMTs, all of whom had just come off of probation. So they had been with the district for a year, getting that experience as EMTs in a high volume, high performing EMS system, which prepared them for the next step of going on to paramedic school. You can see the cost here before you, but overall for each student, it was approximately $121,000 per student. We were able to mitigate the costs of this program. Initially, our thought was that these people would be on their 12-hour workday, that they would be additional, so they were observing and not counting towards staffing on the apparatus. We quickly realized that it was far more efficient to utilize them as staffing to fill vacancies to help cut down on the cost for backfill. And I think that was successful and something that we would want to continue into the future for this program. Next slide.
So the testimony from our members, the 40-hour work schedule was very convenient for them, especially managing their work to life balance, which is important for being a student. The 12-hour ride along, like I said before, was absolutely paramount in their education, because they were able to read about it in a book and then actually go and apply it or see it be applied during actual calls. And this really drove home the message that was being taught to them during paramedic school. The students overall were very well prepared for the internship. Every one of them finished at the bare minimum, the 480s, as well as they were the top of their class within Dr. Gould's paramedic program. The high quality education provided them the opportunity to also earn an associate's degree upon completion of the paramedic program. Next slide. So for future program opportunities, there's some things we'd like to look into is streamlining and customizing the program to fit the needs of working firefighter EMTs. We'd also like to possibly utilize a SAFER grant for funded positions to backfill those firefighters while they're in paramedic school. And finally, we'd also like to mitigate the costs of these students and staffing for the 12-hour work shift is to have them actually count as staffing during their didactic portion to help out with that. This unfortunately is not an option though during their actual field internship phase because they're the primary paramedic on that. Next slide. So overall, the staffing recommends also that we continue the support of the district and our EMTs while attending paramedic school. This is a fantastic investment in our community. We're also going to be demonstrating our commitment to our ALS by increasing our staffing with ALS folks by sending them to school. And this provides staffing flexibility later on during the careers because we're going to have more paramedics associated with Metro Fire and won't have to shuffle people on a daily basis. There's also ensure sustainable EMS workforce for the future. And lastly, this is a great tool for us for recruitment which firefighter paramedic Tim White will speak about later. But the other students had access to the firefighter EMTs that were going through paramedic school and were able to ask them questions and then get to know these folks on a personal level and find out a little bit more about a department and use that as a recruitment tool. I can tell you if this program was available when I was a firefighter EMT, I would have absolutely gotten in line for it. This is a great opportunity to provide a high level of care. And I've already been established with the department. This is just a great opportunity. This concludes our presentation, and we'll be ready for questions at this time.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, this is Director Sheets. No question, just a comment. I just want to thank you for this presentation. I think that it is an absolute valuable program, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity and does add just recruitment value, but also ensuring, the top of the class are these members that are going to be working for Metro Fire. So really just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. I thought it was great.
Thank you, Director Sheets. I did want to point out one item that I forgot to cover previously. I had the opportunity to attend a Metro Chiefs conference with Chief Harms last November. And the conference was really dedicated the entire day to EMS issues. And I think it's important to note that everyone up and down the state is in the same boat. And a lot of the fire agencies are looking at these ways that we're going to be able to grow our own from the inside, recognizing that the available workforce just isn't there, and that people coming from outside of the fire service sometimes have challenges learning a new system. They don't have the practical EMT application yet. And I think the way that we've structured this program by having people come on and work as a firefighter EMT first to get that experience is just invaluable. I know that when I went to paramedic school a very long time ago, you actually had to have a year of documented experience working on a 911 ambulance before you could go to paramedic school. And those opportunities just aren't there in as much volume for people anymore. As you have to be a firefighter already to come on. So we're able to give them that experience that's going to benefit them for the rest of their career. And I also think it's important for us to recognize that we need to be grooming the future leaders in our EMS system. I think we're all aware of the many system challenges that we're experiencing right now, and we need those paramedics coming up through the ranks so that we can fill those positions in our MIH program or community paramedicine or other innovative things that we need to think about for the future to provide an EMS system for our community that's really going to meet our needs and get out of this 1970s model that isn't necessarily functional for everyone anymore. So thank you for the opportunity to present our update to you this evening.
Thank you very much, Assistant Chief Law. Does any other board members have any questions or comments?
Madam President, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Director Gould.
As you can imagine, there's a bit of a fine line as I walk this evening. First, let me thank Chief Law, Chief Harms, Captain Schmidt, and all the support that they provide these students. But I want to identify two things that I'd add to the conversation. One, exactly this idea of we're getting ready to have a tsunami problem in EMS because of the challenges we have in entertaining folks that are interested in providing public safety. It's the worst it's ever been. There is no data that suggests it's going to get any better as we compete globally for people that are now being paid incredible wages to do really jobs that have very little risk. And that is not the reality in paramedicine, is that there's significant risk, which we already know about. The second thing is I want to talk about the students significantly just for a second. While it's true that the Metro folks were at the top of the class academically with their skill sets, as an educator, they had so much more to do with the program itself, because I challenged each of those future leaders of our organization to turn around behind them and grab a community member that does not have the blessing of a salary that we provide our recruits when they come through, and lift those folks up. And I can tell you, having almost daily interaction with these individuals, that not only were they top of the class academically, which we would expect and they accomplished, But more importantly for me, they were also top of their class as community members who were willing to spend extra time to take that non-traditional single mom or that non-traditional student who isn't in the fire service or in EMS yet, reach around and provide extra help for them so that they can be successful. So I want you to think about the impact. It's very hard to put a number to, a finance to. Think about the impact that action by those Metro Fire ambassadors had in our community. Those students who do not have this benefit go back into their homes, go back into their families, go back into their cultures, and they talk about the wonderful benefits they had in making those relationships with firefighters and EMTs from our agency. That is hard to put a value on, but I agree with Chief Law. Give it 10 years where people start to look at that and it resonates in their communities, and they will start saying, they will continue to say really great things about this organization because of the actions that those interns did while they were in our program. And so I'm very proud of all of them for being willing to have me challenge their comfort levels and have them be such a wonderful set of ambassadors to those individuals in school who do not have that opportunity. And you can imagine that a couple of cycles from now, we'll have a young lady or a young man who comes from that same culture and says, I want to be a member of the Metro team because my uncle, my aunt had an opportunity to go through school and was successful that they would have not had it not been about our Metro students. So I'm going to shut up because I could go on for hours about this, but thank you for all of you. And thank you for having such wonderful students in class.
That's very nice to hear. Thank you, Director Gould.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Hearing none. Let's move on to action items. Number 1, multiple award schedule for legal services extension. Chief Harms, we'll try this again.
Okay, good evening. Tonight we're seeking the board approval to extend the award schedule for the legal services for 2 additional years. Staff, as we went through this, anticipate significant cost savings and continuing administrative efficiency by extending the schedule for legal services. We have met with Council Lavra and also with purchasing to review it as we move forward. There are no other requirements or anything as retention to stop us from doing this. It's very similar to what we do with Sedgwick, which used to be York, that has been doing our work and compensation for a number of decades. Also, we have a number of legal cases that are currently out there that have involved a number of areas, and continuing with the same attorney firms that are representing us is key for us as we move forward for the next 2 years. The only changes in the resolution is a name change to the Longyear and Lavra, and we are also removing a firm named Miller and Owen, who merged right after this was originally done, and we have not used Miller and Owen for a number of years. So tonight we're seeking board approval to extend the multiple award schedule for legal services for 2 additional years, extending it through February of 2024. That is all I have, unless you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for the chief? Concerns? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I make the motion that we adopt staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
Second.
Third.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Director Gould.
Aye.
Orzali.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
And Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Action item number 2, ratification of resolution to extend teleconference of board meetings, Government Code 54953E-3. So we shall continue to adopt the resolution so that we can continue to meet by Zoom. Anyone have any questions about this item?
Madam Chair, I move that we ratify this resolution to extend teleconferencing.
I will.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Madam Chair, will you call the roll, please?
Director Gould,
Aye.
Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
and Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next thing on our action item is number 3, discuss and approve a board member join the negotiations team. So I've been thinking that we should have one board member attend the negotiation meetings just as an observer. And so if I can have a volunteer, if any of you would like to volunteer to be in that spot. And then I'll also entertain a motion for this.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Would you expand a little bit about the expected outcome or the hoped for outcome of having a board member serve as an observer?
I would just like a board member to be there at the meetings as an observer so that we can have an unbiased observer to watch the negotiation meetings, and they can come back and report to us in an unbiased fashion.
Okay.
Madam President.
Go ahead, Director Gould.
I would throw my name into that consideration as I've thought about this, as I saw it agendized. I would, as I think Director Orzali is articulating, what I would ask from the executive team of our board is to provide a list of expectations of performances that you would like said observer to accomplish while present, and some type of a schedule or expectations of what that would look like, so that that individual who is assigned could stay very tightly in the lane that the board has approved, so that we don't get ourselves into a bit of a trifecta with 3 different parties involved in this. So if that is your wish, I would simply I would throw my name in that hat, but with some very specific outline of the expectation that the board would have. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Director Gould.
Madam President?
Go ahead, Director Orzali.
Because that's exactly where I was headed with the conversations, and Director Gould has identified this very succinctly. This is, I have done this in the past, observed negotiations, and had to bite my lip several times, but that's okay. I think it's a great idea, but we should be constantly aware that this is not a third negotiating party. This is an observer whose sole or his specific responsibilities is to deliver information back to the board that's in as dispassionate a way as that person can. And if it had Director Gould not volunteered for this, I too would volunteer for this. So that's my only observation. I think it's a fine idea, just needs to be tailored to its goals.
Thank you very much, Director Orzali. Gentlemen, I respect both of your wisdoms. I take everything you say to heart, and if I can ask both of you to help me write up the guidelines for this, Director Gould, I would accept your volunteer, and together the 3 of us can write up the guidelines for this position.
Madam Chair, I'm fine to participate in that. I believe that it's in our best interest to have you and your executive committee really lead that response and those kinds of things. I have no problem sharing some insight, but I think this really needs to be something that the executive team formulates and then makes an assignment based on volunteerism or what have you. But I really think just as a classical way we do business as a board, the executive team has made a decision. This is something that they would like to see. And then from that comes a job description, as it were, even though it's tentative, it's a job description to the individual who will be made. That becomes an assignment, because I don't think any of my colleagues are jumping up and down to want to get on this train. But I too don't want to unless I have very clear instructions, because then I can report back to the executive team or the full board very specific insights or ideas or impressions, because at the end of the day, I want to stay very tightly in a lane when we do these kinds of things.
Thank you very much for your words of wisdom.
Madam Chair, I would like to move the approval of a board member to join the negotiations as an observer. So it's just totally as an observer, not because from the way we have it framed here is to join the negotiations team. It's not joining the team, it's just as an observer.
Thank you, Director.
And
Clark.
I'll be glad to second the intent of that motion. My additional comments would be to one that it's the director would serve more as a function as a witness,
right,
not a participant.
Correct.
And in that intent to share their observations with the board. And I would also like to propose that we have 2 or 3 folks on this list so that one individual is not necessarily burdened with attending all. Plus, we can have 2 or 3 different perspectives. Not everybody all at once, but if Director A cannot do it, then Director B will. If not that, then Director C. And we do have a bit of variety of different sets of eyes and ears on what transpires.
I think that's a great idea, great addition to this motion.
Thank you very much, Director Jones. That is a great idea.
If you need a second, I will second it with the comment that I hope that it doesn't take too many more meetings.
Right.
Exactly. I hear everyone. Having a motion and a second.
President Saylors, you also have a comment by Director White that I think we need to hear.
Oh, go ahead, Director White. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. I think it got addressed, but yeah, the role is specifically to observe and report, and that the direction and authority would still be given to the negotiator through the consensus of the full board at, through closed session process. So I can support having an observer, backup observers or multiple observers, but yeah, that's as long as, like Director Gould said, it's very specific that it's to observe and report, not to engage or participate at the negotiation level.
Thank you very much. Okay, so shall we have a vote?
So, Madam President, I think you've had enough input that we need to restate your intent and motion with some clarifying language to then receive another second or motion on any clarification on what was initially provided us, so that we're very clear on what we're voting on.
Okay, thank you.
Because this is an action item.
Yes, okay. So, oh, that's why it was written as discuss. Okay, so the motion shall be that the executive board shall meet and write up some guidelines to create a position for a list of board members that during negotiation meetings, one of the board members will attend as an observer / witness to not participate, but shall only observe as an unbiased, uninvolved observationist or person. Is everyone okay with that language?
Absolutely.
Madam Clerk, is it clear to you the edits that must take place in the motion?
So right now I have a motion. Well, I have the language for a motion that the executive board will create guidelines for a list of board members to attend negotiations as an observer, not a participant.
If I could add in here, maybe a better way to gather, I think, what the board members have expressed here today is a motion to approve a board member or members to act as an observer with the negotiations team, subject to the executive committee setting forth guidelines as to the role of each one of those volunteers at the time of the negotiations.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor Lavro.
That's why you pay the big bucks. I'll second that motion.
I'm not sure John can make a
No,
motion.
he cannot make the motion.
He was rephrasing for Director Saylor.
Okay.
Right.
I think President Saylor's made the motion with some adaptations from.
Yes, yeah,
from
Absolutely.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
acting as my editor. Thank you.
There you go.
Yes. All right. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please, once you've finished writing down the editing?
Yes, and I'll just restate, this is a motion by Director Saylors with a second by Director Jones. Director Gould,
Aye.
Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Sorry. Yes, and if there is a third board member that needed, I would be happy to participate as an observer.
He as well.
Kelly,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
And
I would
Sailors.
also like to make sure that I can volunteer also. I'm available. So we got directors. We got plenty of directors.
And I'll say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes.
Thank
And
you.
I think once we have direction from the executive team, we will be identifying the board members. Is that how I understand things to be going forward correctly? Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Whew. Let's go to closed session now, okay?
We are on the same channel?
No, we're going, the closed session is on the other.
Okay.
Jill,
The email should have come through around 3:30.
Okay.
That's for that Zoom.
Check the email. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
All right. Director Gould,
Present.
Orzali,
Here.
Wood,
Here.
Sheets,
Present.
Kelly, your 13% didn't go away yet, right? Director Kelly, you there? I'll skip over Director Jones,
Here.
White,
Here.
Clark. We might have some people taking breaks, so.
What?
We do have a quorum. It's not an issue. I do see John Long ready for a report out. If that's the way you want to go, President Saylors, turning it over to you.
Thank you. I think General Counsel Lavra, are you ready to report out?
Yes, thank you, President Saylors. The board met in closed session for a conference with its labor negotiator under Government Code Section 54957.6 with respect to each of the employee organizations listed in the closed session agenda no reportable action was taken. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Lavra. All right, moving on to reports. President's report. Last Wednesday, January 19th, I went to the Capitol along with Director White and Director Clark. And some of the executive staff was also down there. And we sat in on an oversight hearing committee on ambulance, what do you call it? Wall time. Thank you. I'm getting tired. It was a very educational experience to listen to the testimony from many chiefs around the state describe the wall time that is affecting everyone all over the state. And in the second half of the meeting, the hospitals all testified, not all of them, but they had several people testifying on their behalf. The assemblyman and the senator that were the chair and the co-chair of this meeting, both were ex-EMT and an ex-paramedic from 40 years ago. So their experience said that even 40 years ago, this was an issue. It's nothing new. It's been happening ever since the EMS system was started up 40 years ago. So if you ever get in and read Title 22, Chapter 5 and Chapter 7, you'll see that the ambulance offload time is supposed to be 20 minutes by the law. And apparently the hospitals have never really adhered to that. But now that we have testified at the Capitol in front of this committee, they plan on trying to change that law and hold the hospitals responsible to their agreed upon agreements that they made 40 years ago when they wrote the original laws in 1980. Does anyone have any questions about this? Seeing no hands. Oh, there you go. Director Gold, go ahead.
President Saylor, I just want to basically congratulate the chief for taking it on the chin and making this issue public and making it something that has to be addressed. Let's not continue maybe to throw, everybody under the bus. And that's not what our chief did. But at the end of the day, I congratulate him for making the difficult decision to make the public aware of this 40-year issue. And there's plenty of blame to go around. That's probably not going to get us anywhere. But at the end of the day, something's got to change, or we're not going to be able to answer our 911 calls. And as I mentioned to an email to him, people are way more interested in ensuring that they get quick and efficient and competent care in a 911 call than they are about how long they have to sit in an ER for the common cold. And I think we have to do a very good job. And certain players have to step up and spend the money where it's required to educate the community of what the appropriate use of the facilities, all of our facilities are. What's the appropriate use of an ambulance, of an ER, on and on and on. But at least it's being discussed, where for years, decades, nobody has really taken that on the chin. So Todd, I know you took it on the chin publicly, and that's okay to at least start the conversation. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
Director Gould, you say everything so eloquently. And as I get tired and I lose my thought patterns, I was just going to say the same thing, that the chief wrote that letter. And he also sent out the PIO to make those commercials. They're not commercials, but the media that hit the news channels and even went national, to not only educate the local people here on what is happening, but because it went national, everyone in the United States is now becoming even more educated and aware of just how broken the system really is.
Right. And I would just say, for my colleague that's in this gathering, Director Sheets, let's be very careful and specific, that this is not the consequence of anything that the nurses in the ER have been doing. They are busting their chops just as hard as we are, trying to do their very best to make it work. And please do not, take it on like, well, it's all the nurses and they're screw up and they're not working hard. That is absolutely a false narrative. This is a much larger problem than that. Those men and women are working just as hard as we are, but somebody higher up the food chain has to be willing to cut loose some maybe funding, whatever it is, to make that available, because it is not a nursing problem from the sense of they're not doing their work, they're lazy, they're sitting around doing nothing, or they have too few patients to manage. That's not an honest narrative, and I hope that Metro doesn't engage. And I know they won't in any of that kind of narrative. We've got to shut that down immediately.
You are 100% right, Director Gould. It
Absolutely.
is a multifaceted problem with many, many little parts that are moving throughout the whole system. And you can watch this video of the whole meeting if you care to hear, because many, many solutions were offered by every speaker that testified at this hearing. And it's all on the legislature's website. And so if anyone wants that, feel free to reach out to me and I can give you the link to watch that video. So right now, that's all I have for the president's report. So I'm going to move on to the chief's report. Chief Harms, what would you like to say tonight?
I was going to talk about wall time tonight.
No, you're not.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Thank you all for your support on that. It has been nonstop, and it's been two sides. One has been a very supportive side from all of you and people really kind of across the state here on taking the lead on this. And there has been a side that has been very, very negative towards myself and Metro Fire for bringing this forward. A couple of the positive things that have come out of it, and right behind my screen right here, I have the CAD that is up. Since we've pushed hard on them and we've had our back and forth on them, a number of hospitals have brought in paramedics to help manage the wall time. And they've been deployed to the hospitals now until March 31st. The LIMSA gave us the ability to combine patients at a 4-to-1 ratio. The cots that we have taken to hospitals are now being deployed and being used. And over the last 4 days or 5 days, this is not a long-term thing, but just the snapshot right now is that the hospitals that have done that have significantly reduced their wall time. One of the hospitals at Sutter downtown has refused to do it. They have refused to use the gurneys. And unfortunately, last night, Chief Mitchell had to send the shift commander down there, and it was not very positive. But you can, by at least putting some strategies in place, what we saw was wall time starts up at about 11 o'clock in the afternoon and goes to about 11 o'clock at night. And we were literally at a point when we first did this of running out of ambulances. And we have to be able to do it. And again, Director Gould and I have had a conversation. It's just not acceptable. It's about service delivery. So we are pushing hard with the stories going nationally. The U.S. Fire Administrator has contacted me, and she is now involved. The NFPA has contacted me, and on a national level, the IFF has become engaged also with us here locally on what do we need to be able to do to move forward. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with the chair of the public health, Dr. Galley, and staff across the state, because it's not just here, it's everywhere. We also have the chair of the hospital council across the state that will be there. And what I'm seeing is people at least trying to come to the table now. And instead of just saying, no, it's a fire service issue, of making a change and moving forward. So again, thank you all for reaching out and supporting and pushing, because at the end of the day, the two sides of it that it has come down to is, and I've said it from the beginning, it's service delivery. And then how do we take care of our members that are out there on the wall. One of the things that I asked over the weekend, and I had Parker reach out to members and Vice President Cole to give me information and tell me stories about what it's like to be on the wall. What did you do to be on the wall? And what happened during that time? We've had some very bad outcomes, and I wanted to know. And so when they start to tell me a story of how busy they are or the impact on that side, it's about the service side of it. And so I hope, and again, I look at this saying way too much, I should turn it off, but at least we're seeing a little bit of a change. And I don't even know if it's about us or if it's COVID numbers are going down. I'll take any win that we can for moving forward. The other great thing is I'm on another state committee. The state has pushed this from the hearing the other day to the EMS acting director to move this up to the #1 position. And guess who got nominated to now sit on that committee? But the other unique thing is that what they're talking about is that they have talked about it, but they want to truly reinvent EMS for the future, which includes things that we've talked about, MIH and it truly being a part of our system, putting nurse and telemedicine into dispatch centers, things that have just not moved in this system, or alternative destination is transportation, treat and refer, paramedic initiated refusals. All those things at least appears to be something that is on the table. We'll just have to see where it all goes. So again, thank you all for your support. The other big thing this week is we had our first labor management meeting. We did it by Zoom, which is disappointing to me, but it is the time that we're in right now. I'll let Vice President Cole talk more about it, but to me, it was a very, very productive 2.5 hours and reset and talking about issues that are going on and where we're at and what we need to do to move forward. So again, that was very positive on that side. I'm going to turn it over we had a number of items that were asked by directors to have an update on. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Wagaman to give us an update, him and John, on facilities. Chief Wagaman, are you here? Oh, there you are. Yes. Go ahead, Tyler.
Thank you, Chief, and good evening, President Sailors and directors. I made mention just at the beginning of the last fiscal year, we had 4 fire stations that were desperately in need of some new facilities, specifically adding some showering facilities, just due to the number of personnel that work at those stations. So I work with our facilities and our finance to put together a plan to start addressing this issue. And my hat really goes off to our facility staff who really made it a priority to get a lot of work done on this project this fiscal year, with the goal to still complete this project this fiscal year, on top of the flooring project and generator project, asphalt project, as well as over 100 e-maintenance requests that they get across their table each and every month. I'm happy to report Station 21, Station 41, and Station 53 projects are complete. We are still working on Station 23, which is by far our most challenging footprint, primarily due to the age of the station, the number of people that work there, which is 9. The footprint of the facility is just, every square inch of that station is being taken up. We have setback challenges. So we're going to be moving forward with purchasing a modular self-contained bathroom/shower facility. It's going to have 2 separate bathrooms with 2 showers integrated that is ADA compliant, that will be installed behind the station, right adjacent to it, and provide obviously the electrical and the sewer taps that's needed in order to facilitate that new modular unit. And again, we hope to get that done this fiscal year. But I think talking about this is very easy, and talking about the progress is relatively simple, but really the work is all being done by our amazing facilities team. And I thought this was a great opportunity to introduce to you today our facilities manager, John Rayside, and he's going to take you just briefly through the stations that they have worked on so far to tell you what his team has done in a very short order. John?
Chief, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hey, good evening, guys. Thank you. Good evening, directors, Chief Harms, and Metro staff. I am John Rayside, facility manager. Chief asked me to come in tonight and talk to you guys, introduce myself, and let you know, give you a brief insight on how we put showers into three of the four of the fire stations that were required for compliance. So I talked to my crew. Excuse me, guys, I'm a little nervous. Chief made it a priority starting this fiscal year for us to get this work done. It's a very high priority. I got my facility team together. Again, we have a great crew of tradesmen. So all of us went together, each station, each site to assess, and we came up with a plan for each of them and got busy. Starting with the shower locations, the process is starting with the shower locations, cammering the lines, breaking up the concrete for our tie-ins to the sewer, setting the pans, and building out the rest of the bathrooms. Two of the stations we installed neo-angle corner units because that was the best way to fit the square footage. Two of the other stations we had to remove some walls to adjoining rooms that were closets in order to get a more rectangular shower pan in. Once the pans were in place, we finished out the rest of the bathrooms with new flooring, new fixtures, new vanities, paint, towel bars, the whole thing. Each of the stations took between 2 to 3 weeks to get done. And that was while we were still servicing the rest of the district. I got to get a big shout out to my crew. They did a great job. They do a great job every day, and they did a great job on these bathrooms. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to Chief Wagman.
Director Gould looks like he has a question.
Well, not a question, but John, welcome to the team. And I hope you don't have to ever feel nervous about presenting to the board because we're part of the good guys.
Okay, yeah.
And so you did a fabulous job, and I look forward to additional reports in the future, but please take a deep breath and know that we're not the enemy. We're here to hear all the wonderful things you and your team do. And I know the crews very much appreciate all the hard work and the expedited manner for which you take these things seriously. So just welcome. And I feel bad that you felt so nervous. We're part of the good guys.
Yeah. First Zoom meeting with the board, you guys scare me a little bit, but yeah, I appreciate your kind words, and I'll get better at this.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I know it's probably just because I scare a lot of people just normally.
Especially with those headphones on.
Right?
Hey, John, you're looking really good in that shirt. Welcome aboard.
We're only humans.
I sleep in it.
We're only humans, so don't worry about it.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, John, for staying up late this evening and for your report out. And of course, he left out the best part, and that is he got this done on a shoestring budget. I would say it's far less than what it would cost one of us to retile one of our own bathrooms at home. He got all three of these done so far. So my hat goes off to him. An amazing team, and they do impeccable work. So we're very lucky to have this team. So thank you again, John. Chief Harms, back to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Chief Bailey, you've got 2 updates for us.
Yeah, good evening, Chief Harms, President Sailors. Great job, John. First update that I'm going to bring to you this evening is we were tasked to perform a compensation survey of unrepresented employees. And we put out a request to 3 companies. 2 responded back. The one that we chose is locally based in Folsom. And it just so happens that they were actually the lowest cost as well. So through this service, we're not only looking at pay, but also classification, job description as well, to make sure that everyone is fitting in that right level of pay based on what they're doing. So the company that we chose has 20 years experience. They're based out of Folsom, like I stated. They worked with numerous public agencies, the state agencies, cities, counties, and special district. The cost is associated based on hours. It's going to cost approximately, or it'll be about 161 hours to perform what we're asking for. And it should be completed in 6 to 8 weeks is what we're looking at. And Our HR manager, Melissa Maddox, has been working very hard to get us going through this process, and it has been delayed just based on COVID, but we're optimistic that we can have this done, sometime mid-March to the end of March. So that's the end of my report. At this time, I'd like to pass it over to Tim White, who's been doing a great job in recruitment for us.
Sorry.
I thought that was me.
Sorry.
Tim White.
Thanks, Chief. Good evening, directors. I will try to keep this report brief. I know you guys have had a long night. Many of the challenges have already been brought up during the EMS report, and they were echoed by Director Gould, so we can skip that and just talk about what I've been up to. One of my primary focuses has been to identify and really define pathways that people take to get to Metro Fire, take a look at how we support those and how we interact with folks within those pathways, and to find ways that we can improve. Just to give an example that we've talked about a little bit tonight is the pathway through a local paramedic program and how that could be supported by meeting with and building relationships with the program managers, offering internships, and educating students about what we have to offer as an employer. Some of that stuff has been easier at times than it has been over the past short while. There are similar opportunities through programs such as EMT programs, fire tech programs, local CTE programs, and the list goes on. I'd like to thank Director Gould for pointing me towards Handshake for a way to reach out to, or there's not a lot of movement on that right now, but it's a software program that college programs are going to for recruitment purposes. Other projects I've been up to are, I've been trying to shore up our marketing presence for recruitment events when we do get out to those. Some social media content with the PIO's office and website improvements with support from IT. On that note, joinmetrofire.org is now active. It'll take you to our a page on our district website that's all about recruitment. It's a work in progress. I'm excited about where it's going to go. Thank you to Art, and I'm trying to get stuff to him slow because I know he's got a lot on his plate, but he's been keeping up with the pace so far. We have a lot of support from members online moving forward with content as far as that goes, with videos and infographics about like footsteps to Metro Fire, stuff like that. One of the wins in our recruitment program, or one of the strongest avenues I believe in our recruitment program, is through our mentorship program. We are going to be shoring up that program a little bit too, with a recruitment process and then a training process to follow that. Captain Terrence Manley manages that program. He does a great job. I've actually got a pretty good compliment a couple of days ago by meeting a gentleman that teaches for the FDIC and does some podcasts for fireengineering.com. And he said that our mentor program is one of probably only a dozen in the country that is what he calls formalized. That means, in his words, accepted and advertised by the organization, and not just this informal process of people helping folks along the way. That we do well in the fire service, but it was good accolades to our members. He also said that through his interaction with folks that have interacted with our program, that we're kind of the cream of the crop of being able to help, or trying to help folks, and not just come here, but help folks into the fire service in general. So that's more props to our people there. I'm going to quit and let you guys ask me any questions if you guys have any questions for me. But before I do that, I just want to say it's been it is an honor to represent the men and women of Metro Fire in this capacity. This organization means a lot to me, and it's a privilege for me to be out there and be trusted with this. I feel very supported by my bosses right now, the fire chief and Chief Bailey. That's it. You guys got any questions for me?
Yes. Tim, this is Cindy Sailors. Can you tell me a little bit more about your mentorship program?
So the mentorship program, that gets advertised pretty well on like any pamphlets or when we go out and meet at events. That's kind of a choke point in our funnel, if you will, of getting people in contact with folks here at Metro Fire. We have a long list we're going to add to it. And like I said, I'd like to add some a training component to that to keep everybody on the same page, have the same voice. A lot of times, if someone was hired, say 10 years ago, and they're on the mentor program, that might be a little bit out of date with opportunities that we could send to future candidates. So that's what that would encompass. But what the team really does well is connects like individuals, if you will. So we have folks that have a military background that if someone makes themselves known in that avenue, we will get them connected through that. If someone's into college athletics, we'll go down that route. We have gals on the team that if someone says, hey, we can connect them that route as well. That avenue really goes as far as the mentee is willing to take it, the more that they give. I've sat with folks over coffee, people exchange emails and phone calls quite a bit. We get contacts based on social media pushes when we do have something broadcast about a program or a hiring or something. We'll get sometimes very generic questions or some very, very generic, hey, I want to be a firefighter, what can I do? And we have some canned responses for that. It normally starts as a canned response, but if the mentee takes it further, we'll take it as far as they want to go.
Okay, great. Is this program, does it have any written guidelines or anything like that? So that everyone on that's in the membership can read about it, or is there anything like that?
No, not that I know. That's what you mean, the membership within the team or the membership at large?
The membership at large on Metro.
No, that's what Terrence and I we've met about this once, about the opening up another recruitment process. And that's something that we're looking into, like there isn't any standard per se. There isn't something. It's really because it's grown into this program. It started off as, hey, who's interested in talking to folks about becoming part of the fire department, right? And it's grown into something larger, and that's why we're at a point where I think we need to have some formalized training for folks that are in that position, so that, like I said, we can at least be all on the same page.
Okay, great. Thanks for that information. Great job. I saw you yesterday in the diversity meeting. It was great to see you there. Thanks for your information.
Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation tonight. It was great. All right.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much. I think the biggest thing that I've seen and Tim taking the lead on this has been incredible, but making it a position where he's on staff now, and that we've gone from, as you have heard me say before, part-time in this to full-time. And it has really, Tim has jumped with it and ran. So the last thing that I have is that you all know that on the weekend of February 3rd is Fill the Boot. I hope to see, if you have a chance to come by and fill the boot, please be out there. The Burn Institute just does an incredible job for our community. And unfortunately, when our members suffer burns, we go over to the burn unit over there, and the treatment we get is absolutely incredible. So our ability to give back is huge. This year has just been tough on them, not being able to have crab feeds and other events. So this one is really big. And of course, as you all know, is Saturday, February 5th is the Chiefs Challenge. And so there is a lot of competition from my other Chiefs that are out there. So please go online and donate, stop by and drop money off, stop by out there. But please help me be successful in keeping the trophy here. So it doesn't end my report. Chief Bailey, Chief Mitchell, we got to the operations report yet.
All right. Thanks, Chief Harms. And also, it's good to know the other fire chiefs have already started their campaign, and the pre-boot loading has taken it to a whole nother level this year. So we really need to push hard to keep the trophy home. So feel like after last board meeting's report that I did needed an in-flight refuel. I'm going to keep it very short tonight with just three points. First off is COVID, some good news there for us. Currently, we're down to 55 members off, and 46 of those folks are COVID positive. 47 of the 55 are members that work on the line. That's a far better number than what we were at here not too long ago, where we were pushing up to 120. So we're less than half in what we were just a few short days ago. However, that doesn't mean we're trending in that positive direction. It doesn't mean that we're through it yet. So we're remaining diligent with our mitigations, and we've continued to limit district activities, fire station, professional staff interactions through at least February 7th to essential items only, and we'll reevaluate what we do moving forward for there. And it's good to know as well, our internal member testing program, those folks have done just under 3,000 tests just for our internal members. That's outside of our MIH program, the stuff we did with the county, 3,000 internal, some of our cooperators and family members. So a huge value there, and shout out to those folks that are doing that day in and day out. Second item is telestaff. As we reported, it's been down since early December. And that program has a lot of functionality that we rely on our day-to-day operations. I'm happy to report that we are planning a return to full functionality of our telestaff program on February 7th with a phased-in approach. And in earnest, it starts on February 2nd. I think it's really, really important to note the collective effort to get us through that staffing challenge really is created with that program failure and the crisis we were in. Our members' ability to adapt and the resilience they showed to get it back and really to keep us functional during this time has been a huge, huge benefit. They've rebuilt a complete Google Doc staffing program and within hours of the failure. And it's just amazing what our folks can do out there. So a huge thanks out to Laura Kelly, our staffing officer, the staffers, all of our members, specifically also those that helped build the Google Docs program, a very, very numerous professional staff from across the board. They need to be recognized for that ability and their contribution to enable us to get to where we're getting close to getting back online, which will help out immensely. And then finally tonight, statistics since last board meeting, we ran 3,825 incidents, which is about an average of 273 calls a day. There's some days where we get up into the 350 range, others where we get into the low 200s, but we're still very busy out there. 70% of those calls have been EMS related. And then we had 143 fire incidents that we've responded to since the last board report, which has increased over the previous months. And that averages about 10 fire related incidents per day. And with that, end of operations report. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief Mitchell. Next up.
Madam Chair, I have a question of the chief.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Chief, you said February 5th is when you will have to fill the boot, and you will be out there like on a sunrise like we usually do?
It is Saturday, February 5th from 9 to 10.
Okay, 9 to 10. Okay.
So got to get there before 9.
I know.
And right out there on the corner.
I'll be there. But also, and the third is, what was the third again? The Burn Institute, is that an event?
It runs all weekend. It runs from the 3rd through the 6th, correct, Matt? 3rd through the, I don't know, 6th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3rd through the 6th.
So
Thursday. Yeah, Thursday
between
through
9
there.
and 10, 9 and 10 out at Sunrise Mall.
On Saturday for the Chiefs Challenge. The other days, it's 24 hours a day. They're out there. They're sleeping out there.
Okay, I'll be at the Chiefs Challenge. Yeah.
All right.
I'll be there to support you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I have a comment. This report is, to me, that's what leadership looks like. With all the reports and all that, that's what leadership looks like.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All righty then. All right. Firefighters Local 522. How are you, Matt Cole?
I am good. Yeah. Thank you, President Sailors, members of the board, chief, staff, everybody who's still in the participant gallery or occupant gallery, viewer. I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. It's getting late. I'm going to try to buzz through this a little bit. I do have a number of items, but some of them have been hit. First off, last week on 121, Captain Pittman, Firefighter Watts, Firefighter Ramos, and Firefighter Thiel took Engine 23 down to Southern California to represent Metro Fire and 522 at the memorial service for Firefighter Flagler, who died a line of duty death on January 6th. So I want to thank them for representing us, and I do appreciate the collaboration between labor and management to get representation down there. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention memorial service for retired Captain Jeff Ramsdale, which is tomorrow, the 28th, out at McBean Park in Lincoln at noon. We also have a celebration of life coming up for retired firefighter Roger Dyer on Sunday, the 20th. That's going to be in Loomis at 2 p.m. at the Blue Goose. Fire chief already talked about the fill the boot drive. So we'll be messaging members. Anybody who is still on this Zoom, please sign up to help us fill the boot. Like Chief said, it's critically important on all kinds of levels. So if there's any members of the community who are still here as well into the late evening, I encourage you to come out and participate and just mix it up with us. So looking forward to that. Next Wednesday is our retiree breakfast, February 2nd, Folsom at the IHOP at Iron Point. If anybody wants to go check in on some retirees, be good to get that going. You know, it's been kind of hit or miss with COVID stuff, so I think that's still planned. So some business stuff. I would like to thank the board tonight for your willingness and your votes to send an observer to negotiations. I think regardless in which fashion we move forward, that's going to bring value to both sides and to the organization as a whole. Last Wednesday, we also had 522 members at the hearing on wall times. I'd like to thank the board's support for that. President Saylor's bringing that to our attention. I'd like to thank Captain Block and Lohmeyer for their attendance and what they reported back to us at our unit meeting. We did have our first e-board meeting of the year 522, where President Jameson, Secretary Treasurer D-Rod, Dustin Rodriguez, member services Jeremy Crawford and myself were all sworn in. So the new e-board is officially sworn in, and we are rolling up our sleeves. Metro, we also had our first unit meeting. We had over 90 members in attendance. So the fact that we are using Zoom now, that's good. It's getting more attendance. We didn't do it in person, but I think we'll be doing combination meetings for a while, even when we can get in person. So it's great to have that membership involvement. We did have our first labor management meeting, as the chief had mentioned. I also feel it was a good meeting. So I'm looking forward on collaborating on a number of things there. And we came up with some plans to break into small groups and increase our functionality. So I appreciate the opportunity to host that. And I look forward to the next one that management will be hosting, because I won't have to talk so much. Telestaff is coming back up, just as Chief Mitchell mentioned. You know, again, and Chief Mitchell did thank everybody, but I really do want to reiterate the appreciation for Laura Kelly and the men and women working the long hours over at 114 to get that tool back up for us, as well as the other members. There's been a lot of folks working on that. I will be at 114 at shift change with boxes of cronuts in the morning to thank all of you now that I've cleared COVID protocol. So see you in the morning if anybody's listening. Thank you very much. We have had over 30 members working hard at the Engineers Academy the past week, getting ready to step up and take on the responsibilities that come with being an engineer. So excited for all of them and that next opportunity. We've had multiple members from the training division, as well as subject matter experts, putting in a lot of work. We moved this up, as I think many of you are aware. And so it took a lot of extra lift from the training division and people from the line and support services as well. So the shops put in extra work to ensure that we have equipment to train and test on. So thank you to everybody represented and not represented. And I wish success to all those starting the testing process, which starts next week. I'd also like to acknowledge the efforts that are going into improving our service delivery and our working conditions for all the members, i.e. The chief's work and everybody that's putting in work to get the medic units off of the wall at the hospitals and back out, running calls and getting rest when they can and getting fed. So that's not just stressors on those members that are standing on the wall, but all of the folks in our firehouses who prioritize taking care of those members and all of the surrounding companies. So thank you for all the collaborative lift on that from everybody. All of our people continue to do an unbelievable lift on a daily basis. And we have brothers and sisters in CRD, our administrative support personnel in the shop, the training division, the folks that are working their keisters off in EMS, and then clearly all the people out on the line that are running more calls than ever. So, you know, we all do that. We all grind on behalf of the community. And I know I'm fully committed, and clearly so are you, because it's 10:04 in the evening. You know, I don't think any of us are going to rest until we can bring some improved work-life balance to everybody and continue to deliver the level of service that our communities have come to expect. So that is it. I just want to say like a heartfelt thank you, and I'll be delivering donuts and pizzas to various locations tomorrow. So thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Thank you, BC Cole, for that wonderful report. Up next, committee and delegate reports. Executive committee. Well, we will be having a meeting soon to work out our policies for sitting on negotiation meetings. But as of yet, it is to be determined. Next, Communication Center JPA, DC Wagaman.
Good evening again, directors. Our JPA dispatch board has not met since our last meeting. We're scheduled to meet again on February 8th. Hope everyone has a great evening. In a report.
Thank you. California Fire and Rescue Training JPA, Chief Arms.
We last met on January 19th. Two items that we discussed is one is the continuation of training and finishing that on April 30th. The second is the dissolution of the JPA and the closing of it on June 30th. Our next meeting is February 17th.
All right. Next is the Finance and Audit Committee, Director Orzali.
Finance and Audit Committee met. I have no clue what happened. But I'm sure that I'll find out at some point.
Director Orzali, would you like to have Ted Wood report out? Because
actually, Ted might want to report out. I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to confirm that I have no idea what's going on.
Thank you for that report. Director Wood, you are muted. But that was great lip syncing.
Yeah, the Finance and Audit Committee met today, Sans Director Orzali. We got a report out on finances as of 10/31/2021. So it's the first 4 months of the year. At that time, we were largely tracking budget in income and expenses. We were expected to have reserves at 14.3% at the end of this year. However, we will get a mid-year update in February. And so we'll have a better idea as to what the statuses of those items are. Lastly, importantly, we got a report that our CERT fund, this is the promise we made to our retirees that we'd cover their healthcare premiums. That is currently budget, that was as of 10/31 balanced of $74,063,000, just over $74 million. We have a unfunded liability at that time of about $242.9 million, which leaves us at about 1/3 funded, which is great news since we just been doing this for only about 9 years.
And I do need to add an addendum. Director Orzali and Director Wood will continue in their leadership in the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Director Wood. Thank you, Director Jones. Next up, Policy Committee, Director Gould.
No report.
Thank you. Board member questions and comments. Director Jones.
Right. I felt tonight we really turned a corner in terms of helping to conquer this Zoom business. It's a late meeting, but we had so many updates and reports. That's the communication that's so important. And Zoom has really inhibited that for whatever reasons, blah, blah, blah. So thank you to everyone for all of the reports. That's great. Thanks to the executive committee and chief and senior staff and 522 who went down to the Capitol. If we can work on changes with triage and alternate destinations, that will go a very long way to improving our whole societal approach to healthcare. That is great. Thanks for, I attended the diversity, recruitment and diversity committee. That's ongoing. That's great. Let's move forward. Good job, Tim. Let's keep it up. Thank you to Facets for their report. I will be conferring with Fire Marshal for several spinoffs that affect the Parkway Coalition in terms of hazards, as well as this year I will be chairing LAFCO Commission for Sacramento County, and there are water issues that are involved there, and I will be contacting the Fire Marshal's office for more information to help Metro inform lots of agencies about hazards, etc. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Jones. I do believe Matt Kelly has signed off for the night. Director Sheets.
Good evening. I have no comment. Have a good evening, everybody. Be safe.
Thank you, Director Sheets. Director Wood.
I have no comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Wood. Director Ozali.
I just wanted to congratulate and express my appreciations to the chief for taking a stand on the wall time issue. This is a major issue, and it has the potential through his actions to make a significant change in this ongoing problem that really has got to be addressed. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Director Ozali. Director Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things. First, I want to thank all my peers for the willingness to stick around for so many hours and talk about the issues in the community. Thank you, and you're to be applauded for your leadership in your dedication to this. And second, I think that I would call out the executive committee to consider the opportunity for us to, after 20 years of organizational hard work, to consider a blue ribbon panel being assigned the task of looking at what Metro Fire should be in the next 5 years, putting that blue ribbon panel together, and then moving us forward beyond maybe a one-day strategic meeting, but have this blue ribbon panel come together and give us some marching orders of what this organization needs to look like a half a decade from now or longer. So thank you very much. Have a great evening. I'd like to go get dinner now.
Thank you, Director Gould, and thank you for the suggestions. Director White.
Try and keep it brief. First, I wanted to just recognize a couple members who took the time on their way back from Sutter Amador Hospital to pull over and help a stranded motorist alongside Highway 16, who is a constituent of Division 9. So I wanted to say thanks. It was firefighter Mike Lowry, and unfortunately I didn't catch the other firefighter's name, but you know, they took time when they saw an elderly gentleman who had got a flat tire to pull over and assist him with changing that flat. And that was just going above and beyond. I want to say thanks for doing that. Additionally, I just want to remind everybody that this Saturday is also the 48th annual Pig Bowl Presents Guns and Hoses. And this will mark the 20th year that the Fire Dogs team, a multi-agency collaborative effort, has come together as one team. And just like to say, go Dogs. Oh, and Chief, good luck with the Chiefs Challenge this year. Be out there supporting you, or send in support your way. Thanks.
Thank you, Director White. Director Clark.
I'd like to thank everyone for their extensive reports. It's been a long night, but there's a lot of information put out there. And I'd like to sincerely thank the men and women of Metro Fire for the hard work they're doing. We know they're working like, you know, they're really working hard, and I want the community to know that. And we appreciate their work. And in these challenging times, it's not easy to be, you know, to do the job that they're doing in these times. And I really appreciate that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Clark. And I would just like to wind up the night and say thank you for everyone for their presentations and for the crews that continually show up and do their jobs, whether they are on mandatory or whether they have volunteered to stick into the station and work for their buddy who has to go home. We really do appreciate this. And now that my voice is starting to really go away, I'd like to say good night. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for sticking around. Have a good night. Bye.
Good night.